So this week we're going to be talking about the explicit and implicit meanings of texts. So this past week we were discussing poetic form and how the form can influence the author's intended meaning of a poem. And we've also been reviewing our rhetorical devices, as always, because those are always important. So always keep these in mind as we continue with this lesson. So today we're going to be discussing the explicit and implicit meanings of text and how to tell when those are different. So what exactly do explicit and implicit mean? So an explicit meaning is when the author says what they mean. They exactly state exactly what they're trying to say. They're not trying to hide anything. It is what they say. Whereas an implicit meaning is when the author is trying to imply something else through their words. So what they're saying. So today the goal is for you to be able to tell the difference between explicit and implicit meanings in different poems and works of literature. So again, an explicit meaning is when a writer is going to mean what they say in their text, whereas the implicit, they're going to use rhetorical devices or other types of ways of showing you a different meaning from what is directly written into the text. So why do writers do this? I mean, if all writing was exactly what was meant, how boring would that be? The beauty of literature comes from the implicit underlying meanings of all of these texts. All right, so for example, the most famous Romeo and Juliet line from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Now, in this, do we really think that Romeo is saying, hey, Juliet is the sun. She is a celestial body. I don't think so. I think that what he's saying here is that she brings light into the world and into his life. It's totally different. So there's an underlying or implicit meaning there. Or in the Sylvia Plath poem, Daddy, that we studied, there's one stanza that says, an engine, chuffing me off like a Jew to Dachau, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. So here, do we think that she is, specifically saying that she is a Jew? What difference does it make to the meaning of the poem? What is she implying about her relationship with her father? So this part of Sylvia Plath's poem could be a lot of different things about her relationship with her father, how she felt that he tortured her the way that Hitler tortured the Jewish people during the Holocaust. That's just one example, but that's definitely a good one. So let's keep going. So for just a little bit of practice, we're going to do part of the Robert Frost poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, that we worked on already. So this part of the poem is the final stanza, and it was, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So literally, the speaker is saying that they're looking at beautiful woods, but they need to leave because it's a long way home before they can get to bed. But I don't think that that is exactly what he's trying to imply here. I mean, this poem has so much implicit and underlying meanings to it. So on the underlying level, the speaker could even be contemplating suicide, but he's not ready to die yet, and because he still has more to do in his life. So when we're looking at the pieces of literature, the first thing you want to do is read it on the surface. Look for that explicit meaning and see how that fits in with the rest of the text. For example, like I said earlier with the Romeo and Juliet thing, I don't think that he was saying that she is literally a celestial body, because that's not something that really happens in Romeo and Juliet, is it? So it doesn't really fit in. So the next part would be to just look at the rest of the text. Figure out what the tone of the work is. Remember how we've discussed tone and how important tone is. So look for rhetorical devices like similes or metaphors to strengthen what you think that author is trying to imply. So overall, we should be able to deduce the explicit and implicit meanings from texts. We're going to practice a lot more in class this week. We're going to go over a whole bunch of practicing and looking at different texts and works of literature so that we can get a really good grasp on this.